on Blu-ray from Radiance Films is the 1972 Italian newspaper political thriller with a great title, Slap the Monster on Page One. It's also referred to in the extras as Slap the Monster on the front page, but either way, Slap the Monster on Page One is a title I really enjoy saying, so I'll probably repeatedly say that title again, which, by the way, is Slap the Monster on Page One. This is directed by Marco Bellocchio and stars Gian Volontè, John Steiner, and Laura Betti. And if you're a fan of Italian films of the 70s, you will absolutely recognize these people. Even earlier than the 70s, Volontè was in tons of stuff. He was in, I think, the first two of the Dollars trilogy, maybe all three, but certainly the first two of the Sergio Leone, Clint Eastwood, Fistful of Dollars for a Few Dollars More. Just in so much stuff over the years. He in this is great. Everybody in this is really good. John Steiner is supremely sleazy, and Laura Betti is really solid in this film too. So the basic story, it's presented in Italian with English subtitles, and it looks unbelievable. It looks so good. And when I say that, it doesn't always mean garish, blinding colors. It just means the skin tones look natural, it's very sharp, and it doesn't necessarily look like a movie other than, the clothes, the hair, the cars, the interiors, the exteriors. Other than that, visually, it doesn't look like an old movie, which is always what I really appreciate. And it's the big advantage of people are like, why do I need Blu-ray? Why do I need 4K? It's because sometimes they go back to the original materials and they do a restoration that makes movies look way better than they've ever looked before. So, and the restoration of this was done by Cineteca Bologna, which I was actually able to visit when I visited Italy last year. And it's just this amazing film institute. It is a literal place where people study film, but also they do film preservation and restoration, all kinds of amazing work there. So bravo to those at Cineteca Bologna. So the story goes a little something like this. It is a time of great political, civil unrest in Italy. This film opens with actual footage that was shot during protests. I'm not going to pretend to understand all of it. The extras, it was one of those movies that I watch about another culture, another time and place, that while I'm watching it, I say, wow, it would be actually a little cool to have an intro, a non-spoilery intro or something that you can watch before you watch the movie, and that they point out, if you may want to watch this before the movie to set context. I didn't have a problem understanding this movie, but as I watched the extras, I understood a lot more about it after the fact that I kind of wished I would have known beforehand. Again, it wouldn't have damaged. It didn't damage. I don't think it'll damage your understanding of the film itself, the story within the film, but having a little more context is always better. So is political unrest. People are rioting in the streets against the government, and let's just say, before I get into what all of this is about, this film feels really timely when you watch it now, in the last few years and present. People are rioting in the streets, they're not happy with the government, and Volontè is the newspaper publisher or editor of a right-wing newspaper that doesn't like all that protest, that is getting protested against, but they have a wealthy backer. This guy is played by John Steiner, who's a very, very wealthy guy who is trying to get his right-wing candidates through in the upcoming election. And so Steiner is the money man, very well-dressed, very calm, just suggesting the way things maybe should go. And Volontè is bending over backwards into pretzels to make sure that this guy is happy because he's the backer of the paper. So what is going on is all this stuff is going on in the world, all this strife, but the paper instead, and accusations against politicians, but instead the paper chooses to focus on this murder of a young girl of a prominent local official who was brutalized and killed, and sort of framing up this left-wing political activist as the murderer, and really aggressively yellow journalism style filling the newspaper with that and trying to help make the news and change the course of where the news and things are going, rather than focus on anything that the right-wing bad guys might be doing. We're going to focus on this left-wing guy who probably really actually didn't do it. But as far as we are and our readers are concerned, we want everybody's focus to be on that. So that's what this movie's about. And it plays like a thriller. It may sound boring of people in rooms and newspapers talking, but it's really well shot. It plays like a thriller, like a good paranoia thriller. And everybody in it is just fantastic. And me, who loves the look of Italy in the early 70s, this is again 1972, it's got what you're looking for. It's got storefronts and signage and cars and architecture and buildings, and it's just It's wonderful. So, fun movie, really good, really interesting. Great final shot of like a spillway or something being opened and like this canal just being filled with water that's just soaked in garbage. And the end credits roll over just this wide shot of all this garbage flowing down the river. Kind of says a lot about what the movie had set up to that point. It's just it's I really really enjoyed this. It's not the kind of thing that will attract a lot of genre fans probably because it's not an action movie. It's not a police. It's not a giallo. It's not a horror movie. It's not a police action movie. But it kind of plays like one of those police action movies. Really, kind of minus a cop being the protagonist in the film. So, beautiful film, great to look at. The special features are archival interview with the director, Marco Bellocchio, discussing the film. That's 20 minutes, presented in 4:3 standard def. There's a new critic and author, Mario Sesti, gives background and analysis on the film. That's 25 minutes. And new extra, filmmaker and Italian expert, Alex Cox, who you may know from Sid and Nancy or Repo Man or Straight to Hell or his other fine work. He's just a maniac for Italian films. So it's a really cool 10-minute extra where he discusses the film and then he shows a couple of key scenes and talks about them. And that's 10 minutes. I wish it was twice as long, actually. So the package itself, standard Radiance film style where they have this information strip there. It's Japanese style obi strip. That's a separate piece of paper. That can get slipped out if you don't want that in there. But really, really cool. I love the 60s, 70s Italian artwork. I think in the 80s they did too. And then the back is sort of alternate art. The disc itself is, Radiance doesn't do much with the surface of the disc, but that's fine. They do an astounding job on everything else. We look at the alternate artwork, which is really cool. And then we have the booklet, which features a nice shot of Volontè. And again, everything that you see in the booklet are stills pulled from the new transfer, and they look great. It's not I don't know why I do this, but I do it every time. Not a very thick booklet in this case, but it's got a decent article, Say Yes to the Freedom of Order, Fake News in the Years of Lead 2024 by Wesley Scherer. And again, it is illustrated with poster images, and I love the booklets. It's what I love now about the booklets. It's not like before where the insert would just be chapter index or something that you kind of get on the disc itself. The booklets now, they always have information that's supplemental to what's on the disc and gives you information that the extras on the disc didn't give you. So highly recommend, from Radiance Films, 1972's Italian newspaper political dramatic thriller, Slap the Monster on Page 1.